Welcome to the stories we must tell. I am so proud to be here with you today. I am Dr. Christina Kishimoto, and I have with me Superintendent Gisselle Herrera from the Tolleson Elementary School District in Arizona. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Kishimoto. It is an honor to be here and join you today. I really, really appreciate it.
I am so excited to have some sit down time with you. I don't know how I was able to capture you for a little bit of your time. I know how busy you are. There's so many amazing things happening in Towson Elementary, and I want to hear a little bit about it today. But why don't we start with like the exciting news? You just transitioned into the superintendency. I think you've been with the district about 17 years, so you're an internal hire. How is that going?
Thank you for asking. So yes, 17 years here in the wonderful community of Tolleson. Tolleson Elementary School District is medium-sized. That's what it's labeled as. We have 4 schools, 2,800 students, and it has been a joy to be part of this community and this district family for the past 17 years, like you mentioned. I really have enjoyed every one of the roles that I've had here. And now in my latest role, as you can imagine, lots of learning. But in terms of the transition plan, it has been a really smooth one. I do have to say, and I do realize that this can be unique. This is not sometimes typical. However, I worked very strategically and very closely with our former superintendent, Dr. Hightower, to put a plan in place that really gave me the ability to not only shadow her, especially, since the nomination by the board in September, knowing that the training wheels will be coming off in December, right? So we had all those months to really collaborate and start looking at the systems that I have been part of for so long through a different lens. And I've been very happy with the plan. I did build a transition plan, not only to communicate to stakeholders, but to really put my own activities in place as I worked not only through, the initial phase, which was September through December, but then once it was me and only me here as a superintendent, working through a lot of different strategies and activities to really set us up for success here in this upcoming year. So I could not have asked for a better transition. I do again realize that I'm in a very special situation, and I am so forever grateful for that.
Okay, you may be making everyone jealous with your transition plan to have that much lead time, be able to work with your board, transition with the outgoing superintendent, and then take the reign. It's really the way we should be doing it, but often we don't hear that story. I'm wondering day to day, what's like the one thing that is a major shift for you now that you're sitting in the superintendent seat?
Yes, so I've been thinking about this a lot because lots of people ask me that for a couple of reasons. I've been part of the system and building the systems alongside the leadership, right, for so long, but it's a different lens. And it's kind of hard to explain, but I do recall leaving the classroom when I was a classroom teacher. I was in the classroom for 12 years and I loved every bit of it. And then I left the classroom and I put on a different lens. And that's kind of how it was for me initially. Like, oh, yes, I know the district, I know the families, I know the systems, the structures, and yet it's different. Surely, and slowly but surely, I did feel the intensity of the role. It is very much intense, just in nature, but also the responsibility, not to be taken lightly. And people have told me about it. And sure enough, January 1st came on and I felt it. That shift did happen for me because I was very cognizant of not only the honor to be serving here in this district, but also the responsibility. So I would say that has been, of course, a bit of a shift, but very welcomed in terms of, what I anticipated.
So you said the complexity of the role is something that we certainly understand, especially if you've been in the seat. And usually, not until you've been in the seat do you realize how
Yes.
much complexity there is to the work of leading a public school system. At the same time, you've had this opportunity to really think about how you transition internally and continue in terms of setting your own priorities. Share with us some of the things that you're thinking of. What's one or two priorities that are most important to you in the next year or two?
Yes, thank you. So one of the things right away that I set off to do was dig into our priorities. So we're at the halfway point, at the midpoint of a 5-year strategic plan that, again, I worked alongside leadership to build and establish and monitor across the years. But I really wanted to pause and look at it again through my own lens and ask a lot of questions. So through that lens, I've been able to communicate with all the stakeholders. We were doing surveys specific to our 4 priority goals. Priority goal number 1, it's all around the teaching and learning, making sure that students are getting high quality education. Number 2, social emotional. We know that that's top of mind for communities and families, definitely for educators. Priority goal number 3 is all about recruiting, supporting, developing our staff. And as you know, they're the difference makers, those that are closest to the children. So we want to make sure that we capture that. And then priority goal number 4 is all around our families and how we engage them. And we've been doing amazing, amazing things around all 4. But again, I found that, okay, coming into my role, I wanted to take that pause, ask a lot of questions. I've been doing a lot of one-on-ones with all leadership, school leadership, directorship, one-on-ones with board members as well. And like I mentioned, all these different surveys, putting together a robust just context of where we happen to be at this point in time. And here quickly, we're planning for next year around, the input from all those stakeholders. So I wouldn't say that those priority goals are going to be changing, rather the strategies perhaps and how we get to them might be just refreshed and just looked at a little bit differently.
So I know that you've been part of the conversations, and we just recently had a technology and innovation
Yeah.
conference in Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm wondering, as an elementary school district, how you are thinking about the kind of innovations and engagement of students are appropriate for the age group that you serve. What are the opportunities to get this work and mindset started now before they join the secondary school system?
That's been a focus for a while. We are very fortunate to be rich in technology. We're one-to-one for quite a few years here, starting with our littlest treasures all the way through our, 8th graders. Again, that is one specific area that we're looking at closely because we know that we can always do better. And so we go to these conferences and these summits and we learn. And it was important for me to, again, to take that minute to pause and start looking, okay, how can we enhance what we're currently doing? So to that end, we're starting to plan for next year on what STEM is going to be looking like at every one of our schools. We just were able to get our board to approve a job description change so that it really outlines and communicates to the educators what that expectation is for next level of STEM at each one of our schools, because we want to make sure that they all activate the wonderful talents that they have as technology and STEM teachers and be able to, get the kids excited about it. But we also know that partnerships are super important. So we're working on really investigating and learning what are other systems doing that they're finding a lot of success in and with, and how can we bring in partners so that we can go ahead and maybe follow a blueprint just to facilitate our initial enhancements of STEM, but also, put our own stamp on it and do things that best fit the needs of our district.
Well, you certainly have a lot of colleagues around you in the state of Arizona who are thinking about this, are really paying a lot of attention to their investment in the STEM areas. And so you're in great company. And so
I
that's really
agree.
exciting to follow what's happening with yourself and your colleagues in Arizona. Um, we also have the opportunity to think about during this time period how we're supporting one another across states. And I'd love for you to talk about how are you thinking about your network beyond Arizona, what's happening in other states, how you bring those ideas forward, and how you think about how you're managing your time, right, to engage in those innovation spaces.
Yes, that collaboration is critical. That is really how I lead. I like to lead through collaboration and get the voices, make sure that we don't have any blind spots and take the different perspectives because everybody brings something just amazing to the conversation. In terms of really having a network, more than ever, I mean, talk about more than ever just being key and important to the work that I'm currently doing in this new seat. Because again, we all learn from one another. And I think that we all learned, especially in COVID, that we could not have survived without each other. Regardless of which capacity you were serving, whether it was a superintendent, district leader, school leader, definitely our teachers, they really rely not only in their close network, but beyond. And we learned a lot, right? During those months and years when we were all scrambling to get technology up and running for all the things that we were doing. So we learned a lot about collaboration. And that's one thing that I'm really hoping to just continue to lean in and on a little bit more. Of course, we know all the folks around our networks that do the great work. And sometimes states just take a different approach, but they also have a different, I would say, commitment, perhaps from like their local systems that support the work that they do, and we can learn from them because everybody's context is different. So I wholeheartedly support that collaboration and welcome it. And people are always so gracious. I find that if you tap anyone on the shoulder, they're going to be more than happy to share what it is that they have. As of recent, the one, of course, topic of interest for everyone has been AI.
Yes.
So you are continuing to do that work and really figuring out how does it serve us as a tool for learning and teaching through efficiency and excellence, and we're still learning because I think that it's just moving so quickly. But those networks are going to definitely be key.
Well, it's certainly an exciting space, right?
It
To
is.
engage in those conversations about how we're leveraging AI, where we can utilize it to improve our systems, but also our learning processes, our engagement processes. So that's all just so invigorating, right? In terms of that learning process. So it's difficult to be planful when there are so many unknowns, and we know there are federal policies that are changing and are bringing new direction. And so I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how you and the board continue to have the conversations about how to be planful, perhaps in shorter terms, as more guidance comes out and we learn what the actual changes are going to be through federal policy shifts.
We go back and we just continue to ground our conversations on our own district mission and vision of making sure that every child, right, gets what they need. And through that lens of equity, we have a board that is very supportive of that. And then we just go back to also the Kids at Hope philosophy. We're a Kids at Hope district. And so with that, there's 3 specific tenets, but tenet number 1 is always top of mind as we're making decisions. And it's all children are capable of success, no exceptions. And in the noise that comes our way, and it just gets louder and louder, we just still need to remain committed to ensuring that every child is capable of success and that we facilitate that. And that takes, the hard conversations and some of the decisions that we are having around budgeting for this upcoming year. Remaining on these very conservative ways of doing things, knowing that the policies might change. We are hopeful, always remain hopeful that things are going to go ahead and straighten out for the good of our children, but also our communities. But we're also working again, like I mentioned, with the staff so that they have the information that they need. But until we get a little bit more meat, I would say, to some of these policies and the effect, of how they're going to really affect us as school districts, we're going to have to just continue to watch it, have conversations with other districts, right, as we're networking and just learning to see how's everybody moving through it so that we can have a sense of stability, even within the unknown. But it's tough. That's one thing, right, that I didn't anticipate that come January, and there's all these executive orders. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a challenging time period. A lot of important work that has to happen. A lot of impacts that we know we have as educational leaders on our communities, our families, our children, our young people. And so I want to thank you for stepping up into this role. We need great leaders like yourself as we continue through the mission that we accord to deliver on, to provide quality public education to all students. And so I want to thank you, Superintendent Herrera, for your leadership and your continued work that you're doing in Arizona and nationally.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Dr. Kishimoto.
Thank you.